Hey guys, HCGChica. I'm here today to talk a little bit more about thyroid stuff and HCG, mostly thyroid. I wanted to discuss the final results on why I think I lost so much lean mass my first round and why I lost a lot more fat my second round. I don't think it was related to the T3 that I take, the cytomel, the active thyroid hormone. Originally, I thought that it could have to do with that. But as it turns out, the second round, at first, I was having Diet Coke like I did on my first round every day on HCG, which has aspartame in it. And I was losing a significant amount of lean mass again at the beginning, and I was kind of frustrated about that. So I decided I really needed to test out all the possible factors. So I removed the Diet Coke. I mean, that's not really on the original protocol. Although he did say sweeteners were okay, but I don't know that aspartame was around then or not. I don't really know. So anyway, I removed that, and literally within a day or two, I started losing a lot more fat of the weight that I lost. So I really do now attribute it to aspartame and or sweeteners in general. I'm not sure about the other ones. I think stevia is fine, but I did read online on some of the low-carb websites that aspartame can knock some people out of ketosis. So I feel now that that must have been the reason for the first round losing a lot of lean mass. The second round, as soon as I did remove that, I lost a lot more fat. So I'm very, very happy about that. And I'm happy for my next round because I won't be having any Diet Coke on my next round. So I should hopefully lose almost all fat. So I just wanted to throw that out there for some of you who watched my previous vlogs. That might be something to consider. Making sure of, the different things that you're having. I do have that body fat analyzer. It's the Omron brand, and you hold it by your hand, and that was very useful to me in seeing what affected what. And that way you can know if certain things that you're eating are causing you to lean more lean mass or not. So in my case, it was the aspartame. So that's that. So good news for that. You can take your active thyroid hormone and feel fine on this diet and do well. Probably do even better. So, so the other things I wanted to talk about were regarding thyroid issues a little more. I've done it before, but I can't even remember what I said. But
more tea?
More tea? Pretty soon. Pretty soon. So one thing is that I think thyroid issues are a lot more prevalent than people know. I think that there's a lot of people who probably have a thyroid condition and they don't know it. Even though they run these standard thyroid tests at the regular doctor, a lot of them will not show if you have a thyroid disease or condition. And I'm serious about that. Any research you do, I have all the leading thyroid books right now, which are Why Do I Still Have Thyroid Symptoms When My Lab Tests Are Normal? Check that one out on Amazon. Stop the Thyroid Madness. That's another one. A new book just came out called Hope for Hashimoto's, which has to do with the thyroid. Hashimoto's is actually an autoimmune disease against your thyroid, which is what I have. And even though it deals with Hashimoto's, I kind of recommend everyone with thyroid issues or who might have it get it because it really discusses a lot of really interesting things about why certain things happen that a lot of books don't explain. So anyway, when you read through all of those books, they help you to realize that there are a lot of undiscovered thyroid problems out there. A lot of the basic tests they do will always come back normal until your problem is like maybe so extreme that you've had it for a long time. It just took this long to get that extreme, and that's actually what happened to me. My thyroid test came back pretty normal for quite a while, even though I felt awful. And in the end, I did have Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid issue, and it wasn't discovered until it was like so severe that it finally showed up. But it would have been nice to catch it earlier because I probably would have a lot more of my thyroid left, and I probably wouldn't be able to treat it, even more successfully.
Hi.
Hi, honey. I'm talking right now, okay? So anyway, I just encourage anyone who just feels like they know that something's not right and they're always exhausted to pursue it further. Don't just go off of those tests because they're really inaccurate, So anyway, that's that. The other thing is, if you do find out that you have a thyroid issue or have hypothyroidism, You might want to pursue a little further, seeing if you actually do have Hashimoto's. The reason I say that is because the leading cause in the United States of hypothyroidism is Hashimoto's disease. So basically, like probably around 90% of those who have hypothyroidism, whether it's discovered or not, have Hashimoto's. It's from that. So they do not test for that when they test your thyroid, because doctors treat it the same. Whether you have Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, it doesn't matter to them. They treat it the same, so they don't do those extra tests. There are 2 antibody tests that can be taken to see if you have Hashimoto's. And even then, sometimes it may not show up, but you may still have it. And some of the doctors that I've, in the books I've been reading, they say a good way to retest if you just really feel like you may have that is to eat a bunch of gluten and then retest for the antibodies, and then they might be elevated, and then there is something there. So, and the reason I say that is because the way you should treat hypothyroidism versus Hashimoto's is different. Conventional doctors treat it the same, but that really isn't the way to go about it, and there are a lot of things that, if that is what you have, can really help you to adjust, or you'll know why things happen, how you can fix certain things, and, just stuff like that. So I would definitely check that out too. The other thing is, whichever one you have, or both, as Steph's Universe mentioned, she started taking T3 again. T3, or Cytomel is the brand name of it. It's basically active thyroid hormone. It's what your body makes T3 normally from T4, and it's kind of what makes your metabolism go. It's what gives you energy and all that stuff. So so a lot of people are finding that when they're on T4 only meds like Synthroid, that oops, come here, bear. They don't really feel that much better. And a lot of doctors are starting to do combos of T4 and T3, and that's definitely an improvement. And they may feel that they're feeling better. Come here, Nolan. That's okay. And but even then, I mean, you have to see if you're actually feeling better. The really best way to dose is by symptoms. And that's actually what some of these books I'm reading are saying, and that's what I do. I take a pretty high dose of T3. I take 87.5 micrograms to 100 micrograms, anywhere between there. I adjust it depending on how I'm feeling. And that's probably, according to most doctors, is like really super high. But you know what? I feel great on it. I really do. And I've been on this dose for over a year, and I feel really great. And a lot of doctors are really afraid of Cytomel. They I don't know, they make up all these weird, scary things that can happen, but I haven't experienced that. I don't think. I've had times where I did take a little too much and my heartbeat went up, but I just reduced the dose again and it went back down, and that's fine. So it's easy to know if you're taking too much. It's not like it's hard to fix. And that, almost never happens. So once you find a dose that's good, I mean, you're going to be fine. So, anyway, the other thing is the biggest thing right now also is, doctors are prescribing, when they do prescribe T3, they're doing it in sustained release form or slow release, which is where they put it in a capsule with binders, and the idea is that it will slowly absorb into your system, like maybe it naturally would happen, and you'll feel more even throughout the day. However, in theory it's nice, but in reality, most people find that they just don't absorb nearly as much of the T3 that they should, and I have found that to be the case. I just take straight Cytomel now. I used to take sustained release, and I noticed it was much higher potency than regular, but it felt good, and I actually did reduce my dose a little bit because of it, because it was so strong, and then I was able to work my way back up again. But I have found that actually has been a lot more effective, just taking the straight regular Cytomel. And that's actually what several of the books that I'm reading say as well. So these people really know what they're talking about. Finally, they're getting some good information. But again, you're not going to know about, the conventional doctors are not going to know about any of this. So I'm just telling you that you got to get the information yourself. So there's that. Usually when you take T3, you increase it in like 12.5 microgram increments.
Okay.
And that's usually how doctors do it, and I get my T3 out of the country now without a prescription. I'm not suggesting that you guys do that, but if you do enough of your own research and you know enough and you feel comfortable, it is something that you can do, you know. But I don't want to get in trouble for, you know, somebody doing something not good for themselves. But I'm just saying, like, I have done enough research now for myself, and I've been doing this long enough that and I did start out with a doctor that I feel comfortable now just dosing myself based on my symptoms, and I really don't adjust it much. It's just, but you know what I'm saying, I don't feel like I have to constantly go in for testing every 3 months, because I know if I feel good or not, and that's really what counts. There are times when when you may get tests back, maybe you're on a dose where you feel good with your thyroid medication, you feel great, and your tests come back and it says, oh, your T3 is too high, your TSH is too low, we need to reduce your dose. And then you feel terrible again because you're on a lower dose that you don't feel good, but he's saying, oh, but your labs look good though. That does not make sense. What makes sense is when you feel good is when you're on the right amount, to me. So I just think that's silly. And again, that's a lot of the books I'm reading say too. The other thing is the gluten connection with all autoimmune disease. To be honest, I didn't really believe it at first. I never would have removed gluten out of my diet for the full 3 months that they suggest that you do the trial without HCG. But since I was on HCG, that's what ended up happening. And then when I had gluten again, I really saw a huge difference. I felt terrible. So there really is a connection. As much as I hated to admit it, it really is there. I cannot have gluten now. Now that I've been off of it even longer because of my second round. I had it again recently, like kind of a lot, when I was doing my, you know, unplanned load for no reason. And I had an extremely intense intestinal pain. It felt like my bowels were on fire, literally. Like my intestines, I could feel like the particles burning through the lining of my intestines. So, that was very real, and that's what it does is with gluten, it damages your intestinal lining. If you have an issue with it, which is really a big thing with all autoimmune diseases. And they said you really have to go all completely gluten-free. It doesn't matter if it's like almost 100%. If it's not 100%, it doesn't matter. Because basically, you only have to have a little bit of gluten every 7 to 10 days to keep your intestinal lining damaged. So, and the reason they suggest you take it out for that full 3 months is because it takes that long for your intestines to heal, for that lining to heal. So, and I have found that to be true. So that is my experience, and it is true. I cannot have it now. It really, really feels terrible. And it really makes me more fatigued too. My energy levels, even with my medication, they were still a lot really up and down. And now, ever since the gluten's been gone after that period of time, my energy levels are much more consistent, just consistently good instead of so fluctuating. So that's another thing for anyone of you out there, you know, just wanting more info on stuff like that. The other thing is iodine. That's a really hot issue. If you don't have Hashimoto's, it's probably fine to take iodine. However, as I said, the leading cause of hypothyroidism in the United States is Hashimoto's. So you may have it and not know it. And the thing is, iodine, until you can get your immune system under control, which is what this book, Hope for Hashimoto's, discusses in deep detail, a whole protocol, you should not take iodine. And I have experienced this too. Iodine is very, very bad for you right now if you have Hashimoto's and your immune system is not modulated. Iodine causes your body to make thyroid peroxidase or something like that, which normally is a good thing, but when you have an autoimmune condition in the form of Hashimoto's, that actually triggers your body to make more antibodies against that, because the antibodies it makes are against the peroxidase, the thyroid peroxidase. So you're actually fueling another attack, and your body's gonna destroy more of your thyroid every time you take iodine. And you know what? I have experienced this. I really like that dry seaweed. You can get it at the store. They use it for rolling sushi. I love that stuff. I think it's great. And I noticed when I would have it, I would feel like I got hit by a truck. I would feel terrible not too long afterwards. So I figured that connection out kind of on my own, And then I did some research online and found that to be true. But there's a lot of misleading information out there that you should take iodine for your thyroid, but be very careful with that. There is a time and a place for it if you get your immune system under control. But until that time, I don't have it unless, you know, if you have Hashimoto's. Same thing with a lot of supplements. My husband has this green drink that has all these like minerals in it, but a lot of it comes from like spirulina and kelp. Same thing. I feel awful. I feel like I got hit by a truck whenever I have that green drink, so I don't have it. So, you wanna look in there? So anyway, so that's the case with iodine. Just do a little more research on that. The other thing is, you know, before I found out that this is what I had, I actually thought that I was bipolar for a while, because I had huge fluctuations in my energy level, where I'd feel like fantastic for 3 weeks and like stay up till 3 in the morning and do a ton of stuff. And then I would be fatigued. I could hardly do anything for weeks. And so I started thinking I was bipolar. And so I kind of want to throw that out there for any others who maybe have had that diagnosis or think that could be it. You actually could have a thyroid issue, and it could be Hashimoto's. Because see, what happens with Hashimoto's is with this autoimmune thing, your body attacks your thyroid and destroys part of it, and then excess thyroid hormones spill out into your bloodstream or in your body, and you actually have excess thyroid hormone for a time after that attack. But then after that's over and it's faded away, then you're left with less thyroid than you had before, and so now you're hypothyroid. And then you feel terrible. And then whatever happens, you have stress in your life, you eat too much gluten, whatever. Then you have another antibody attack, and more of your thyroid's destroyed. There's excess thyroid hormone floating in your body, so you're super hyper. Anyway, that cycle continues for a time until eventually it gets so extreme that you just are only hypothyroid. You no longer have those surges in energy, and that's what happened to me. Eventually, I no longer had the highs, and I was only low. And I was just only hypothyroid, you know. But like I said, I didn't know any of that at the time. All I knew was my symptoms, what was happening. So that's just another thing to check into, you know. Some things are not always mental. I know that there are things that are mental, but I think there's a lot of things that are actual real imbalances in your body that you're not aware of, and that when those things are fixed, if they can be fixed, overnight you're a different person. And that has what's been the case with me. It's like when my goodness, when I started when I got on the medication and I felt better, overnight I started doing a lot more. You know, I didn't have to convince myself to make dinner or to get exercise. I was able to do it and it felt good, but before that it didn't, and I couldn't. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I guess that's all for the moment. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. But like I said, those books are really good, a good starting place. And I think thyroid stuff is a lot more common than you realize. So hope that helps. Talk to you guys soon.